I'm Victoria. I'm Vanessa. Yeah, it's okay if you can't tell us apart. I guess we would call it Twingineering. Yeah.
Okay, welcome back. This is our 13th episode, and we have a special guest, our bestie, Emilia. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey y'all, I'm Emilia Robles. I have I don't know why I was gonna say it. I'm a fifth year. I'm like so used to saying that. I'm not a fifth year no more. I graduated University of California, Davis with my Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering. I did do 5 years, and I'm currently a hardware engineer in a rotational program for GM. So it's been amazing.
Oh, nice. Yeah. We love Latina in engineering.
Yes, we do.
I didn't know you were in a rotational program. I am too.
Honestly, it's been the best. I can go more in detail later. I don't know if y'all want to do that now, but I honestly definitely suggest that for anyone that is new or first generation. It has helped me, meet new teams and not feel like, oh my God, this is it. Like this is all I'm gonna know within the company. So yeah.
Yeah. We'll go into that in a bit. We'll just start like pretty conversational. So we like to do some weekly highs and lows. We'll start with the lows. So then we can bring up the energy.
I could go off. Hold up.
Oh man. So let's do weekly lows. Victoria, do you want to go first?
Yeah, so actually mine's are kind of like together. Like it was like first a low, right? But then like I figured it out, so then it was a high. Okay, so this week at work, I like got an email, right? And they were like, I mean, I don't know like what really I could say, but they're basically like, we need this, and this for like a customer, and like if we don't do this, like, very like intense vibes, like stressful. Like we're on the verge of losing this program, and I was like,
I would have been like that whole saying of like your stress is not my urgency, so I'm gonna put a pin on it.
Yeah, so then I was like, I'm just a teenager, like what do you want me to do with this? But it's fine. Like I had all the data that like this person was asking for. And like thankfully, like as we were doing the test, like I was already putting it in a report and like I had everything structured. Like I just needed to like modify some things because I was making like the final report, and this is kind of like just what we have now. So I like deleted some stuff and like I put it together, and then I like sent it, and then she was like, "Thank you so much." And I was like, "Why did that have to be so stressful?" Like,
I bring it up in that Razor that usually like that little survey they do.
Yeah,
where it's like, what have you contributed? Well,
in the moment, I was like, I had to like stay a little bit later too, and I was like trying to like type it up super fast, and it's like, oh my God, like what do I do? But it's fine. And then I bought myself a coffee, and we're good.
I really
nice. Emilia, do you want to go next?
Sure. It's been honestly like this whole week. Honestly, in terms of stress, I felt that. No, literally, I was like, I don't think it's just like one specific day, I think it's like, when you have like an internship or like, full time right now or any job, honestly, when it starts like super, super lenient, right? Like you're doing trainings, you're like, oh my God, this is going so great. Like I'm not even doing anything. And then that's how it was for a good like maybe month. And then right now it's like actually started picking up. I'm like, not me actually like, oh my God, I have to work now. So it's been like super like overwhelming because they're kind of like off the bat they're like, all right, you're doing 5 projects, you're gonna lead 3, you're gonna be part of 2, and it's like okay, like, and so it's been kind of like just navigating that, and it's like getting to know the company, but at the same time like you're gonna have to like pick up the pace a little bit, and so it's just been more like just dealing with that. So definitely, man, it's definitely like a low for now, but it's okay. I feel like just be like, lenient with myself and be like, I only have like a month and a half, maybe 2 months in here. Like if I knew the company by now, like I wouldn't be in the position I am. I'd be in a higher one. So it's okay. Like, like taking it easy. So yeah, it's been like that. But coffee every day has helped.
That's good.
It's definitely getting me through
it. Yeah, I think for me, I'd say the same thing. Like for a while, my mentor Okay, so just a brief background, like my rotational program, it's like I have one home department where it's like I start and I end there. And then I go back in between. So within that department, they've given me more responsibility because my mentor moved to a different position. So they're like, oh, we need manpower, here you go. So then, yeah, I feel like now it's getting into the role. It's like one, these projects have to be, you have to meet deadlines, but at the same time, it's like my first time doing them. So I'm like asking questions left and right. And I'm like, yeah. So like, there are things that like, okay, I've learned and I'm like, okay, yeah, I know how to do this. But then when something comes up, like out of nowhere, because sometimes, suppliers just things happen. They don't
Yeah.
follow the guidelines. And then it's like on you and yeah, it's been crazy, like trying to meet like deadlines and then making sure you have what you need. And then it's like a lot came up today. And I was like, this is insane. Can anyone leave me alone? I'm
No,
just a
literally.
girl. I'm just a girl.
Like you know that one like TikTok video where it's like that guy with the Nemo thing where it's like, "Where's my dad?" I'm like, that's what I feel like. Where I'm like, "Oh my God, someone please help me! I don't know how to do this. Like it's too much. Stop."
Oh my God. No, then people like sometimes if people say like, like I'm not an independent woman, I'm like, yeah, I am, but like help me.
Yeah, independent doesn't mean stop yourself from like getting help. Like
Yeah,
I get that from being like super. What is it called? Like hyper independency. I felt that.
yeah,
Like I struggle with that. So all good here.
yeah. But I guess my high is like I'm going to a theme park tomorrow. So I've never
Oh,
been, and it's like a Honda Family Day thing at the park. So it's cool. It's like they rent out the park. Never been,
that's
so we'll see.
nice.
Yeah, I'll let you
Dang,
know how it
bro.
goes.
Yeah, let us know. This is cool. What the heck? Yeah, bro, I'm about to bring that up to my job. Like, so when y'all closing Six Flags for us or like
Like,
something, bro.
So you know
Wait
what
a
they're
minute.
doing at Honda?
Yeah, like y'all gotta step it up. I'm about to change real quick. Like, hold up. Y'all hiring right now? I'm just kidding.
Hey, yeah, come through,
Kim,
girl.
please don't listen to this. Oh my God, I'm sorry. Just kidding. I love my position.
Oh my God. Okay. Um,
I guess a high. It's more like a personal high. Like really, like probably people were like, "Oh, we get it." Like it was like my 2 year anniversary with my partner this week, and
Ah,
yeah, so that was really nice. We got to like go out and stuff, and we're actually gonna get dinner after this today, or yeah, again. So I'm excited because I'm like, yes, I love going out. I love trying new foods.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I guess
it's
that's like my really big high.
exciting.
Yeah, thank you,
Congrats.
thank you, thank you.
When will it be my turn?
Stop
That's why I
it.
don't like saying it because I feel like every single person's like, okay, we get it. Like, and I'm like, I used to be like that, so I was like, okay, wait, I don't want to, I don't want to be that person, but
No. Congrats, girl. We
I
love that for
had the
you.
little cricket noises, like, anyways.
Okay. Um, but yeah, we'll just keep going.
Yeah.
Something new that we learned in our current role. Victoria, you want to start?
You can go first. I need to think.
Okay. What did I learn? I feel like it was just a lot of new things this week. And like, well, okay, so at the end of a project, we have to like get approval for it. And then I was like talking to my manager because like it seemed like we had all the data, right? And
Mhm.
then he was like, okay, but when it comes to the meeting, like you're gonna have to be able to explain it with like confidence and stuff. And I was like, you're right. How do I know like that I have everything? So then we were in a meeting, and then he was like, so where's this data for this part? And I was like, good question. So
Let me get
like,
back to you.
so the thing is like I had all the data and like all the parts, you know what I mean? It's just
Mhm.
understanding every single part of it because these projects kind of came to me like at the end or halfway through. So I'm kind of just writing it, but my manager is pretty like helpful with that, and he's like, I know you received these like midway through. I'm just kind of going through this with you so you know like what to expect when it comes to like that approval meeting. And I was like, no, I appreciate the feedback. Like you telling me I need to be more confident. You're right, because I'm not.
Constructive feedback, man. You gotta be open, definitely,
Yeah.
to getting that a lot. So
Yeah, so that's what I learned. It was pretty impactful, I guess.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, like, not much. I mean, I just like been learning about like new tests. We haven't ran them yet, so I can't say that like I have experience with them or like have learned them, but like I've read about them. Because I test these like products and they go through like environmental tests. So they're like put into these like environmental tests and they're like some of them are like more stringent than others, like putting this product through like stress basically and seeing like if it works before and after. Um, but that's basically it. I've just been reading about them. Once we run them, maybe I can talk about them more, but that is
A
all.
win is a win. Hey,
It is.
um, I guess it's like my turn.
Yeah.
Well, who else? I was kidding. I guess something I've been learning, and it's been more of like definitely like a shock, especially like I kind of think it hit me this week, is being very comfortable with asking a lot of questions and like a lot of questions that I would consider like I think I'm like well, I would consider to myself like maybe quote unquote dumb questions, but it's like no, like it's been very beneficial, like especially as I'm like learning a new role and like a new company. It's like for example, like there was one project this week that I was like having to start and I kind of felt bad because I was like, I actually don't know how to start this project. I don't know where to start. And I kind of felt like a little helpless and I felt like, oh man, like maybe I can't reach out and ask them like because I felt like they would judge me and be like, what do you mean you don't know how to start, you know? And so I reached out to my mentor and I was like, because you know, she's always been like super friendly and very open. She's like, you know what, whatever question, like it's better to ask questions than to just kind of stay stuck for a while and just be like, I spent the whole 3 weeks just, you know, trying to figure this out when it, you know, it could have been just simple, like, you know, ask questions to get your answer. So I told her, I was like, I don't really know how to, you know, start this project. I feel bad. She's like, no, don't feel bad. No, not
Hmm.
apologize. Like, it's good. Like you're to ask this question now versus like, you know, not us not knowing that you're struggling with it. And so she was like, go ask this other person that was in charge of the well that's overseeing the project that I'm working on. It's like go ahead and ask like, hey, could you give me advice? Could you give me feedback on like where to, you know, the first step on this? And I did, and he was super responsive. He was like, yeah, like, you know, take a look at these documents and we can set up a meeting for next week. Like, and so that helped a lot. And I was like, oh, like I can ask these questions. Like it's okay. Yeah, and it's been like a like you know a whole process of that. Even my manager was like, you know, ask questions, and I think the biggest question I've asked too, with like struggling with like just balancing a lot of projects too. And my projects are the type where like they're due like next year, right? And so it's hard because they don't give you any soft deadlines. They're like, you know what, this is due next year. And I was like, how do you manage that? Like, how do you, because like, you know, in college, they like give you like deadlines. Hey, like 2 weeks from now, the rough draft is due, and then the final, you know? And so like, I was like really like honest with myself that I was struggling and I asked for help. Like even my manager, again, he was super helpful and it does take having a supportive team, which you should. And I was like, how do you manage, you know, your, like, how do you set your personal soft deadlines, you know, to make sure you're, you know, time efficient. And he was like, yeah, like, you know, this is what I do. And you do, you know, you do have to be like real with yourself and maybe set like either like a physical plan or like, hey, by, you know, the end of next week, I hope to accomplish this. And so that again has been like a huge like wow, like you know these people are super open to just answer any question no matter how small, and it has helped me because then I don't get stuck and I learn
Yeah.
more now versus like waiting until I'm a year into my position and be like, hey, like I never asked this question. So
Yeah.
yeah, sorry, that was like long-winded, but
No.
I'm just super in shock. I'm like, wow, like I can ask these questions. These people are like super open about it because they understand you're learning. Like, you know, you're new
Yeah.
to like even like, what a career is and what it takes to be in a technical role. So I'm like just taking it. I'm being like soft with myself and like, hey, it's okay if you don't know all the answers. Like these or
Yeah.
telling yourself these people understand. Like they don't expect a lot from you off the bat. And so
Yeah.
yeah, it's been super nice. So
Well, that's good. So yeah,
yeah.
I think it also took me a minute to be confident to ask questions. So
Hmm.
Same.
yeah, good.
Yeah, hyper independency man will tell you like, oh no, you shouldn't ask that, or they're probably gonna think this about you. It's like, no, just ask the question. It's better for you to know now, and it shows that
Yeah.
you're, you know, you're trying, and you really care.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Sorry, I thought someone was gonna say
Vanessa,
something.
you have the dog.
I knew the silent, like, the silent time was gonna come, when no one's like, all right, who's gonna go next? Like,
we're just all staring at each other. We're
I
like,
just smile. I'm just like, all right.
okay, so yeah, we'll just get into it. I guess for the first part of it, Emilia, we'll just ask you about,
Mhm.
like your experience in college, like what you studied, and then also a brief introduction to your current role, and then we'll get into the questions. So
Okay, sounds
the
good.
floor is yours.
All right. I might have to ask what else you wanted of me after. I'm gonna do the first part, right? The whole
Yeah,
college, how college was.
yeah,
Um, College was like extremely hard for me, and I hate to admit it. But
if
it
you like that.
was. Yeah, like I felt like I was pretty, not even felt like it was. I was pretty mid at like most of my engineering classes. I just struggled a lot. It was a career that I knew I wanted to take, but I didn't have any like previous experience or like I was just never exposed to it. And so I did struggle a lot. I felt like a lot of the times in college, I was in the whole like survival mode where it's like, like if you didn't understand it by the second, third week, like the content, like you just did anything you could, you to like just get through. And so that was hard. But it was a good experience. I don't think I would have been able to do it without like my friends. I think they like helped me a lot. And it's like,
Yeah,
it really instills in you that you can't do something like sometimes it's okay not to be able to do things alone, especially engineering. Engineering's hard.
yeah,
So yeah, in terms of academic, struggled a lot for sure as a first generation college student or first generation American citizen or anything of the above. I'm first gen on. Um, but yeah, besides that, I was like super involved on campus. All my jobs during college, unfortunately, I had to work while I did school, so I did not have that privilege. But I had jobs on campus, whether that was an internship career center, or like working for Mesa. So like then that's when I realized, I think especially after college, that I really like my hobby, just because I'm struggling to get hobbies now. I'm like, what the heck do you do like on your free time? I like to give back. I like to be involved and like really help people. So
yeah,
that's kind of what kept me also afloat in college. I definitely recommend, being involved. You know, you don't and not everything has to be technical, like you can be part of like social clubs, and I think that's a good balance. It's okay. It doesn't make you less of an engineer to want to do stuff that's not related to engineering aside
yeah,
from the of your academics. So
yeah,
yeah, I feel like every engineer I've talked to, they're like, "Oh, I like to do ice skating or I like to surf." I'm like, "That's like awesome," because it's like, like I've been like nothing wrong with like, if everything is engineering based and that's what you want to do, go for it.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so that was like my college experience.
Hmm.
You said this the second part was what was the second question?
Like, how did you get into your role, and what has your experience been like?
hmm Okay. So I got to my role, or I applied for my role and got it the summer before my fifth year, and which was honestly the best thing I ever did. And I like firsthand saw like, the struggle of like trying to find a full-time job on your last year during it. And I was like, I'm so glad I did it beforehand because it saved me so much like stress and energy because I knew like during the year, like going through it, I don't know why I thought the last year was going to be easy, but it wasn't. It was like super stressful and you have senior design on top of that and everything. So yes, if you can, honestly, go hardcore on like finding jobs the summer before your last year. And so I actually, and then also if you're very passionate about something, keep going because you are going to hear a lot of no's. Like for GM specifically, I knew that was a company that I wanted to go to because I was like really interested in the automotive industry, and I was like, GM feels like it's going to be my break, and I was like, I'm going to do it. Like, and I got super invested in the company, and from what I was hearing too from recruiters, like it was like a really good work environment, and they like are big on diversity, which I have firsthand seen. Like they are, like they're super big on supporting it and stuff. Um, so I was like, you know what, this sounds amazing. Like I want to do it. And so I applied like maybe to 6 positions, and I got denied to all of them besides the last one. The last one, they were like, hey, we want to consider you for an interview. And that was kind of like, oh my gosh, I did it. Like I remember having the call. I kid you not, this is how bad it is in terms of like first generation. Like I got the call, my mom just like came into the room. The moment I got the call, I don't know how. It's just so weird. And when I finished talking, I looked at her and she was like, you got it. And I was like, yeah. And I just remember like bawling my eyes out. And I was like,
Oh,
yeah, like it was like such a big break. I kid you not, because of how like, I'm first gen and not a
yeah,
lot of people I think understand it. They're like, "Oh, I got a job. Cool." Like to me it was like a big deal. Like, "Oh my God, like I did it. Like I'm
yeah.
making it." And oh my God, I'm going to get teared eyed. I feel like I never no, I don't really talk about these things, and
Yeah,
it's like like it meant a lot to my family. And after that, my mom was like boasting everyone, my tias and everything. They're like, "Oh, my daughter's going to GM. Oh my gosh!" And I was like, but it like meant a lot. I think I was more emotional because for her too, like it meant a lot to her. It also meant not
Yeah.
only did I make it, but like she's like, "Oh my God, like we're making it," like todos sus
Yeah.
sacrificios, all her sacrifices. She was like,
Yeah.
like she's excited, and I gave her a moment to do so. It meant a lot to her. Well, also my parents, but my mom's more emotional. My dad's like, like doesn't show emotion, but I could tell, like he cried at my graduation, and that man, I've only seen him cry twice in my life. So, um,
You're like, cry.
yeah, yeah. I was like staring at him. It's like you better cry. Like,
You're like, did you hear what I said? I got the job.
yeah. I was like, let me repeat it. No, but yeah. So that's how man. Yeah, it was just kind of like, oh, like I'm okay, like I did it. And after that, honestly, that 5th year, I was like struggling, but I was like, it's okay. Like I have something said. It's all right. So it definitely eases your mind.
Yeah.
And then you said, how is my role now, right? Like
Yeah.
navigating through that. It
Mhm.
has been honestly really good in the terms of like do a rotational program. I feel like it gives you a better feel for the company. You'll be able to do different positions because and I knew I wanted to do rotational program because again, first gen, like I don't know much about engineering first off. I didn't
Yeah.
know much about it, or like the different positions I can have and like what is a software engineering role in one company could be, totally different in terms of responsibilities in another one. So I
Yeah.
was like, okay, like I want to know what hardware engineer is for GM or what does that entail, right? And so unfortunately they switched up slightly like how many roles you could do. So now I only get to do 2 per year. But honestly, it's amazing. I've got to meet like a lot of people. You get your little like group. It kind of feels like college all over again. You get your little group starting off, like your little track engineers, and then so like it doesn't feel too lonely. They do a lot of events. They make sure that your transition is super like easy and it's like friendly and it's supportive. And so I feel like you might not get that a lot when you're like straight off the bat going into like a new position like as a full entry employee, which again does not, if your company doesn't have a retention program, it's not bad. You'll still like find that support. So that has been amazing. I'm in the breaks team, and again, like it's that cold shock of like I expect maybe to like have that one person that was maybe going to be hard on me. No, like everyone's super supportive. Maybe it's because I'm like the youngest, and
Mhm.
only and again I'm the only Latina in that team, but everyone's like no, it doesn't feel like no one's judging me, especially when I ask those what I would consider maybe not the best questions, but I've been more lenient with myself, and they're like yeah, like let me help you with this that, and like cool, like again they understand that you're new, and then they're all like oh like I was a everyone's like oh as a new hire like I went through this, you should look into it. And I was like oh like thank you so much. So it has been honestly great. Like I mentioned on my low, it has been like picking up lately. And so um super busy in terms of doing that. But then also and then this is where I'm like still figuring it out, right? Because I'm so used to doing so much in college. I was like, okay, like I want to be involved too. Like I feel like there's
Yeah.
something missing, outside of my technical role. And so I applied to be in the cultural pillar for the General Motors like Latin network at
Mm.
my chapter, and they're like, "Hey, we need like a co-lead for the cultural pillar," and I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And so I brought in ideas. We're gonna make like a Loteria Day to kick off like
Oh, so
Hispanic Heritage
exciting.
Month. So yeah, so I'm already getting involved, and it feels great because that's my hobby. Because I realized post college, and it was super hard at the beginning. Like I felt super like not depressed. That's like the wrong saying. But like I felt like, oh my God, like I don't know what I want to do. Like what am I doing? And so I would just sit in
Yeah.
like my couch or try to watch a show, but it felt like I was missing something. And like it was super lonely.
Yeah.
Like I was like, okay, I have no friends
Yeah.
or family that I can be like, oh, let's go get something to drink or stuff. And yeah, I have my
Yeah.
partner, but even he has his hobbies, right? And it's like, well, what do I want to do? So
Yeah.
this takes up most of my time and I love it. Like this is what I missed from like college is like the social groups, the like doing
Yeah.
activities. So yeah, I feel like definitely join like employer resource groups, quote like parentheses ERGs, um, at your like company because I feel like it if that's what you want, right? You don't have to, but like if you like to do that in college, like the whole like be part of clubs and stuff, I think it's awesome. Helps you
Yeah.
expose you to more people versus like if you just do your job, it might be hard to like even meet like people outside of your team.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I
how it's
agree.
been.
I
Yeah.
Honda has like also we call it business resource groups.
Oh, okay.
But I'm part of Latino Dreams in Action. So they do recently we've been like starting to do a lot of like partnerships with OSU, Ohio State. They have a ship
Okay.
there. Uh
Nice,
yeah.
perfect.
So it's like um I recently started getting more involved also, so I agree. I think it like helps you meet people, and if you wanted to do like if the company like sponsors some organizations or they have
Hmm.
partnerships with them, like it allows you to do outreach. And I think that's also important for me. So, yeah, definitely do that. Do what Emilia says.
I mean, you don't have to, but you should try it. I feel like just, as a member at least before you jump into the
Yeah,
position, because it has been busy for Hispanic Heritage Month. I'm like, oh man, like I put so much on my plate. Like I'm doing this all over again.
no,
Again,
I
like I was
feel
so I have such a hustle mindset sometimes. I'm like, that's toxic. Like it's okay to take a break. Like I don't need to do everything. But
Yeah.
yeah, so but it's been good. I've been managing. I don't know how, but I've been managing. So it's been good.
well, I love to hear it. Stay involved, girl.
Likewise.
So we'll move on. Yeah, so I guess also another question that I feel like this was a question, but also a topic, about
Hmm.
moving away. So
Hmm.
how was that for you?
It was extremely hard, and it still
Okay.
kind of is.
Yeah.
So I'm like the first of my family. Well, I don't want to say the first one because my parents migrated from Mexico at a young age to like the US. Like it's not, I was like, wait, okay. But I'm like, after that though, I was like, I have 18 cousins, two younger sisters and stuff, and everyone always stayed local. If they weren't in Mexico, they stayed local, right? In like this Woodland / Sacramento area. Everyone asked me where I'm from. I say Sacramento area because no one knows where Woodland is. But
Yeah.
um it was a big change. Like I was like, yeah, like I thought I was ready. I was like, yeah, like I want some independence because I lived with my parents still when I commuted to college and stuff. And I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, like I want my independence, like and my mom always kind of instilled in me like, whatever opportunity goes your way, take it no matter what, no matter if it sends you across the country and stuff.
Yeah.
And she said that, but even towards the end when I was getting some moves, she was like, it was kind of hitting her. I feel like she kind of, my mom also like has a hard time, I think, expressing maybe like her love too. So I think she was getting more like snappy with me at the end, but I think it was the idea of like I'm leaving, that it's like, oh, like
Yeah.
I'm missing you actually. And so that was hard. Thankfully they got to move with me, and I feel like that's just like a you know Latin / like minority family vibe where it's like, they want to go with you. They want to make sure everything's safe, no matter what age you are. And so they wanted to
Yeah.
come and they helped me move and stuff. And just to kind of, I guess, ease of mind too of like, hey, I'm gonna be okay.
Yeah.
But I also am not the type to want to show like more vulnerable sides. And I also didn't want to cry in front of my mom. And I was holding it. I was kind of super like, I feel like kind of cold at like towards the when they were like about to leave because they were only here for like a week or two. Because I was like,
Mm.
I know if I'm like, if I'm vulnerable at all, like I'm gonna cry and stuff. And so I didn't want, I guess, to scare them. Like I didn't want them to be like, oh my God, like you're not gonna be
Mm.
okay by yourself. Because I was like, no, like I don't want
Yeah.
them to worry. Like, and so
Yeah.
after that, when they left, I remember like crying like a week, maybe 2 weeks straight, because I was like, and no matter what thing I did, like
Yeah.
my first weekend alone, it was like super hard because every weekend my family would get together, like they do stuff,
Mhm.
and I would see them doing stuff, and I was like, man, like I wish I was doing that with them because it felt so lonely. Like we would do our own thing and we would do things together, but it just didn't feel the same.
Yeah.
And so, that it was just it's a big change, and I feel
It
like I
is.
definitely makes me like cherish the times I was with my family. Um,
Yeah.
and even now I kind of bug them a lot, like FaceTime every day, which has been nice. My sister has been more on the like text here and there, but they're super like, okay, like I guess you don't miss me. But now I get it, it's like siblings. Like they text me here and there, but they're also busy. But now I FaceTime them every day and like let them know. But like I remember the first couple times I'd call them, or the first couple week I couldn't really call them as much. I feel like I'd make excuses, but it was because like if I called them, I knew I was gonna cry because
Mm.
of how much I
Yeah.
missed them. So but yeah, no, after that, I got guts and I was like, it's okay to show them like your more vulnerable side. Doesn't mean you're doing terrible. It just means like, hey, like you're human, you miss people and stuff. I called friends. So I think just calling your family members and friends helps a lot. And then also, again, the whole moving and realizing you don't really have a lot of people around you that it's like, okay, what do you do then? Like you have to
Yeah.
come up with like your own hobbies or do something to keep you involved or like busy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a challenge just figuring out who I want to be. I think how no matter how cheesy that sounds, but I grew up in a
Yeah.
very strict Latin household, so I was like, ooh, like do I want to get a tattoo now? I can, but then I still think about my mom. I'm like, oh my god, my mom's gonna like like slap me or something. And it's like, wait, no, I have my own place, but it's hard. So And stuff like that, like reinventing myself and being like, okay, like you start getting into more of that adult vibe because I feel like I was always like kind of well taken care of, right? Like my family would like take care of me. College would kind of like felt like it still was guiding you through your hand. And then you get to the real world and it's like no one's telling you what to do. So it's like, what do you want to do with your time? Like I should probably go to a gym, but no one's telling me to go to gym. So it's a struggle. I should probably cook better, or like learn how to cook. I don't know how to cook because I didn't really have to for a long time. Again,
Mhm.
commuting, my mom would have like food ready. It's like, well, why stress myself out? More than college is already stressing me out. Um, so learning that, like, like, okay, maybe I should meal prep, maybe I should do this. So it's been like just figuring it
Yeah.
out as an adult and figuring out how to pay bills and shit. Oh, my bad. How to pay bills.
Yes.
And then realizing that even now, money, I feel like somehow just like disappears. And it's like, okay, we're still working on financial barriers, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of how it's been. Just lonely and finding things to occupy yourself with, so it's not so lonely.
Yeah. I feel like that's how I felt too. A lot of figuring yourself out and like reinventing yourself and like
Yes.
finding things to do. But yeah, I get it. Like I thought also like moving away for college. I was like, yeah, it'll be good. I moved like 6 hours away. And then I
Yeah.
moved here and I was like, hey.
No,
Like,
yeah. No,
I'm
yeah.
like alone with my thoughts, you know?
You're like, oh no, literally you are. Like it's like, oh wait, now nothing's stressing you out. You have no assignment. So it's like, like you start getting like in your head. And for a while I was
Yeah,
like, oh my God. Like I got scared for a while. I was like, oh my God, am I getting like go back into depression or something? Like why am I feeling like this? Like why am I feeling so
yeah,
low? Like I don't want to do anything. And it's
yeah,
like no, like it's like there was no one around me to be like, yeah, like I want to hang out, my family and stuff. So
yeah,
it is hard. It's a hard transition that I feel like not a lot of people come back and tell you about. You see them and they're like, oh, they look fine. They're on Instagram, maybe picture here and there. And it's like, oh, they're fine. But it's like, no, they probably went through a really hard transition.
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and there
but
were like
yeah.
times where like I would like literally doing the simple things. Like I was washing the dishes and all of a sudden I like start crying and I was like, bro, what is wrong with me right now?
No,
You know?
literally,
Like
I'm telling you,
what?
literally same. And like you can tell my partner, bro. Like I would just like one day I was like on him, like watching like kind of just cuddled with him on the couch watching TV, and then I would start crying. He's like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" I was like, I just started thinking about how I used to watch like things with my family, or just I don't know, like it just felt so lonely on a Saturday, and it's like why?
Yeah,
What's I'm
yeah,
not doing? What I'm like I don't have my mom yelling at me in the morning to clean and stuff. Like like I
yeah,
miss that. Like I'm like mom, please yell at me. But you start to
yeah,
miss it. But where like before I was like, like I don't get it. Like why you yelling at me to clean every freaking Saturday at 9 a.m. But it's like whatever.
yeah.
Um and the cultural shock I think that no one tells you about when moving. Like especially to like, certain states. Like I moved from okay, so I don't know if viewers know or like remember, but like I moved from Woodland, California to Michigan, right? And so around me there's like not that many like Mexican restaurants. If like there's one, and even that one was like I'd give it like a 6 out of 10. I was like, okay, like
You like
like I was like, and then when like there's one burrito, and I was like, oh, this is not good. And then the person that was attending, I was like, that's my favorite one. I was like, oh my God, no, I can't do this. I was like, oh, that's just a lot. Um, but what's it called? No, like Woodland was like very like Latino populated, right? And so
yeah,
there was like 5 bakeries in this like small town, and then there was like
yeah.
restaurants here and there, like a lot of like Latino owned businesses. And here it's like I have to go to Detroit, which is like 45 minutes to get maybe to like two. There's a place called like Mexican Town, and so there's like panaderia stuff in there, I guess, but it's not like no longer like local, it's no longer like, oh, I
Mhm.
can just go 5 minutes and back. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's been rough for sure.
yeah.
Um, not a culture shock. Like I do see a lot of like people like me out here. Especially a lot of like Puerto Ricans at my job. So I've had more of a diverse like friend group now. Like I've actually had
Oh,
to
that's
like
cool.
gotten to me. I feel like it's yeah, we met I think because of the whole like, oh, you speak Spanish. That's how it started. Like this girl was like, oh, you speak Spanish. Oh, I speak Spanish too. And then we just like clicked. Um and so yeah, we have lunch together. I think just being proactive about it, like, hey, do you want to grab lunch? And we talk about how the job is, so that keeps me sane for sure. But yeah, that's kind of how it's been a lot, honestly. Just
Yeah,
learning and unlearning also, like a lot of things that I want to. So
yeah. Well, that's yeah.
yeah.
I just want to let you know it gets better. It does.
Yeah, I feel like it has.
And yeah, I know like sometimes like I'll have a day and I'm like, but then they're not all like that. So Yeah.
Yeah. And then just being being more proactive of calling whoever you're thinking about.
Yeah.
And so I think that's helped a lot. And yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear it's getting better.
Yeah, it is. Thank you. Thank you. And it's reassuring to hear that it does get like fully better. Or maybe not even
Yeah.
fully, right? It's ups and downs here and there, but yeah.
So I think that was all of like the topics. So we can jump
Okay.
into the questions. Um, Victoria, do you wanna
Yeah.
say them? Okay.
Yeah, so some of them might like go back into like what maybe we have mentioned. So if you want to
Okay.
like refer back to something, or if you're like have something new to answer, like
Hmm.
feel free.
Okay.
Um, so the first question is, are there any shareable lessons learned after moving away from friends and family?
Yeah, this is definitely referring back to the whole just like call them. Like,
Mhm.
like I think I didn't do that as much. Like I was super like would not check my phone a lot or like reply to messages as quick, but now it's like take the time to really call if you're thinking about them. Like, just do it. No matter if it involves like you're gonna cry or like say, like just because you miss them or something, just do it. It's gonna mean a lot. And then also just I think cherish more like the times you do have with your friends and family, especially like during college. I feel like I was so focused my last year on like, like just finish everything, all my
Yeah.
work. And it's like I didn't really have a lot of time. Like I had to move. I started my job like a month after I graduated. So I was like moving and stuff and it was kind of like, yeah, I was kind of like, okay, bye y'all, like that's it. And maybe I got to hang out with some friends at the end, but I feel like I wish I would have enjoyed it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Um, it's okay to have that be your seat if it means just enjoying life a little bit more, like
Yeah.
it's okay. I think I always definitely value more people over certain things. Yeah, I think those are like the big lessons and then maybe learn how to cook no matter what because you're gonna end up eating out every day. Like I'm still eating out most days. I'm like, God damn. I learned how to make enchiladas for the first time last week. TikTok also saves me. Call your
Love
mom or
that.
your auntie or anyone or even your dad, bro. I'm gonna my dad does a certain dish, chilaquiles. Hello. I gotta call him up and be like, and that also like gives you a chance to like also spend time with that loved one. I don't know why, but food is it's a big love language, I feel like in my family. Like
Yeah.
even sharing recipes, it's just kind of like you're sharing a cultural part or like they're sharing something that they learned. Like also when they were, when they were just coming here and like to the US and they had to learn. Like my mom was like, "Oh, I didn't learn how to cook until I got married to your dad." So that's reassuring to me because I don't know how to cook. But it's kind of like it's nice and doesn't all have to be like, "Oh, how are you every day?" Like which is honestly sometimes there's not a lot to talk about, but just checking in so with loved ones is really nice. So that's my
Yeah.
Yeah.
lessons learned.
Um, the next question, let's see. It might also kind of tie back, but there's also more. How is it being far away from home and the overall transition from school to work life?
Yeah, I think the first part is definitely like going to be a lot of repeating of like it's hard and then it's okay to struggle a lot, whether it's mentally or like financially too. I think okay, I'll talk more about the financial aspect. That was definitely hard.
Hmm.
Get a company that's willing to like help you like support you financially a lot in the beginning, but also they were like, oh, we'll give you stipend, but then after like you've been here for a while. So I was like, oh dang it. So I had to do, a lot of out of pocket. I think, oh, that's another one. Okay, advice. Save up a little bit money definitely for like post grad because you might need that when you're moving to wherever you need to for your company. Especially when you're getting like an apartment or whatever it is you're getting townhouse. I have a townhouse right now, but the whole like first month, last month, like things I'm learning because I've never moved out. So it feels like I'm like super slow into the adult life, and all my college friends are like, yeah, like I've done this for a while, and I was like, okay, I have not. So I was like, damn, they want you to pay everything off the bat, like 10K, like all
Yeah.
right, cool, like no, save up a little bit more so you don't have to really take out a lot of loans. I know a lot of individuals in my company that I talk to them like, yeah, like I had to take out a loan, so I was like, yeah, like save up a little bit of money for sure. I think that's gonna help a lot. But also more of the second part of that question because I feel like the first one we already did. Which I already forgot. Can you remind me what the second part of the question was? I knew it was important. I was like, wait.
Yeah, no worries. The overall transition from school to work life. From school to
Yes.
work life.
So definitely, I think it's definitely big. It's a lot. that whole like not having really someone to tell you what to do in terms of deadlines or assignments. It's kind of more like you have a lot of power, what you want to do with your life, what you want to do with your, extracurriculars, anything after like, um, work. And also they have deadlines, right? I talked about it. The company doesn't, well, the way my team exec specifically works, they don't really have any soft deadlines. It's kind of more like you kind of have to pace yourself. So learning how to like, pace your work, prioritize things, I think was like a big thing I learned in my company. And a big transition from college for sure. I was like, oh, y'all not telling me like on campus, like when is this due? That's crazy, bro. Because like I need some deadlines. And um, what else was difficult? I mean, besides like learning how to adult, right? Like pay bills.
Yeah, I think that's the
Um,
like the huge
yeah,
thing.
like pay bills, eat good, like give yourself nutrition, cook, don't eat out every day. Again,
Yeah.
huge emphasis.
Drink water,
Yes. Oh my God. I do
Don't
not. I drink even
dehydrate.
less. If I drink any water at all in college, I drink even less right now. And I was like, oh no, like I have to go like buy like the little like blue jugs, So I've been meaning to buy some actually. Um, but yeah, it's just been a lot. Like everything's learning, but I don't think it's been like terrible besides the whole, paying bills. It's always a struggle. Manage money. If you are, oh my God, that's a big thing because I have never been good at money, and I think it's just like generational like trauma or like whatever it is, like my parents grew up with, I think sometimes when they have money they tend to waste it because of like they come from a history of not having a lot of money. My parents were like at one point didn't have anything. They've done the whole like bankruptcy and stuff at one point, like, in their adult life. And so I feel like when they have money, they're like, okay, like I get to buy stuff I never really had, especially as a child or stuff, right? So that's like a trauma that I think was instilled in me, especially, I'm still breaking financial barriers. And it's like, when I have money sometimes, or I'm being better, but I would go crazy. I'd be like, oh my God, like now I can buy this and that. And all of a sudden, like it was not enough. Like at the end, like I would and I'm like not very to this, but sometimes my bank would go negative but it was a struggle of like I don't know how to work with money, and
Yeah.
it's like learning now that it's like I have terrible spending habits because of that, because it's like I want nice things, like I want those things that I know it was hard to get sometimes. And I think just seeing my parents like kind of, sometimes struggle with that or like max out credit cards. It's like no, you probably shouldn't do that. So it's
Yeah.
hard. And so
Yeah.
I think really learn how to be financially smart before you go out by yourself, because it's you don't, especially if you're gonna go alone. I think it's harder. I thankfully have a partner that's really good at like uh finances, and so that helps me like keep me okay, like you probably shouldn't do this. But yeah, I think learning that like good spending habits and being real with yourself and doing a savings account, because for the longest time I just barely started one like a week ago, and I've been here like for 2 months. So yeah, doing that for in case emergencies, and just being more open with yourself, like okay, like maybe just doing $50 when I go out, and it's okay if you go like a little bit overboard, but just being smart with it, so you don't want to struggle a little bit more. And hopefully we're all billionaires shortly, because
Yeah.
I'm tired.
No, yeah,
Like
I feel that. Because it's like
yeah,
no one really like teaches you like
no,
about money unless you have someone to
yeah,
like tell you about it or like what to do with it and stuff.
right.
Like after you make this money, it's like, well, what do you like?
No,
What do
literally,
I do with it? Just
yeah,
hold it.
and I wish
Okay.
college would do better of like, just showing you basic things that you should know as an adult, but especially for money. And I feel like they don't do that, and they don't realize that a lot of these students are coming from, generational like traumas, like they or financial barriers, sorry, I should say.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like if you don't have anyone to teach you in school, which they should, like have it as an
Yeah.
elective or something, like force, like, I'd rather take financial literacy than like chemistry twice. But anyways, yeah, I was like, I don't need to know an angle of a freaking atom, man. Like, just show me how to work my money. Like, an angle of an atom ain't gonna pay my bills. Like, anyways, they're setting you up for failure, and they don't understand, I think, their audience, right? Like, these people
Yeah.
need a leg up. These people need to, establish themselves like that. You can't just send them off to a job and be like, yeah, figure it out. Like, you're gonna do great. No, they're gonna fail if you don't teach them how to, pay their bills and stuff. So,
Yeah.
and it's hard to if we can't really rely on like maybe like a parent all the time. And yeah, like my mom's good, but again, there's like those like, hey, like I guess they don't really teach you the right way, and it's okay. And it's okay if they don't know a lot of things. Um, But yeah, I wish they would have told me a little bit more. And it's okay if you learn things late. It's not embarrassing. I think is my biggest lesson. It's okay
Yeah.
if you're just starting now. Like there's no such thing as like, oh, you're too late in this. It's like no, like you're struggling with it. Like I'm setting it up for like my is it precedence. No, it's for my kids later in the road. Like
Oh, I don't
later.
know what
Like
that's
I mean
called.
like later.
I don't know either.
Like not
I
right
don't
now.
believe you.
Yeah, like I hope my kids are better off, hopefully by the but I mean that's what you get for being first gen. You're still in the messiness of unlearning so much and learning and it's
Yeah.
like you just kind of have to be okay with yourself not being the best at everything and just hopefully you're generate if you choose to have kids or anyone else after you, like hopefully they get better at this or they'll be in a spot where they're gonna be, completely fine. So yeah.
Yeah. And then too, like people are like, yeah, like when you get your money, like invest. And I'm like, in what?
But yeah, exactly,
What
like, oh,
exactly do you
how,
want?
girl, invest in Walmart, invest in Target. Don't get me, I will invest all my money. Like, you gotta be more specific. Like, but yeah, no one
Yeah,
teaches you how to,
I
It's
know.
like,
Invest
and
in
then
my
also, like,
shopping
sometimes you
mall.
won't be able to invest because you gotta pay bills first, and that's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay to, like, your savings, not really have savings until, you should definitely always, like, work on savings, but it's okay to be like, I'm really tight on money, and hopefully, it does get better, actually, because I was
Yeah.
really tight with money in the beginning. That's okay. It's not embarrassing. You're working on things no one else knows. Like you have bills or things that you had to do to get to where you are. So okay, school. So yeah, I still haven't paid
Yeah.
those off or started paying them off. I
Yeah.
gotta look into that.
We should definitely like kind of talk about that in like an episode,
Yeah,
maybe.
I
But
don't even know how to pay my loans off. I don't think they could do a good job of telling you, hey, like following up with you and be like, you gotta
No.
stop, you gotta pay them like this. And so it's
um
hard.
that's a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
The next question is a little different than that.
No worries.
So maybe we'll be a little bit relieved from money for a second.
Mhm.
It's how did you improve any technical skills or improve your engineering mindset?
I think it's again falling back to the whole like asking questions and being okay with not knowing. And it
Yeah.
can be a very uncomfortable like feeling of like like because I feel like especially if you're like me where it's like again like mentality where it's like you're trying to hit the floor running like oh my God like I need to get this I need to get this like no it's okay to take it slow. Like this is not like I think it's a whole going back to the quarter system of college where it's like you're expected to learn stuff, okay cool, like go. And no, school is work is more like you probably have years, like someone that's like, and I've talked to a lot of individuals that are like, yeah, I've been at this company for 4 years and I'm still trying to figure out the acronym. So it's like, okay, if I've had 2 months, like I could be easy on myself. There's so many acronyms, by the way. Oh my God. Um, but it's asking those questions regardless of how you feel, like, oh, like if they're quote unquote dumb, which is you learn that there's no such thing as a dumb question. It's better to ask now rather than like, struggle and your project's not like, go forward. So um definitely ask a lot of questions. That's how I am slowly but surely becoming, I think, a better engineer and a person. And not everyone's, I think, learning process is the same. Like I take a little longer, and so that's okay. Like again, as long as I'm asking those questions, it's better to do that than not. So that's yeah. As an individual, you have to be open to criticism and open to not knowing. So
Yeah.
that's how I've been growing personally.
Yeah. I think
That's
that's
good.
good advice. Yeah. Wait, Vanessa, were you gonna add anything or?
No, that's okay.
Oh, okay. I thought you were like saying something. I like interrupted you. I was like, okay. The next question is, how is the change in food in supermarkets?
Big, like I mentioned, yeah, big for sure. I mean, thankfully everything is close by to me, but I mean by close to me, I mean like your basic stores, like you got Walmart. They have a store here called Major. I say Major.
Meyer.
It's my oh what? Are you
Meyer.
serious?
Yeah, that's how you
I've
say
been
it,
calling
girl.
it Major this whole time. No wonder people look at me weird, bro. Oh my God, are you serious? Meyer? Where do you get
Yeah.
Meyer from that? It's
Yeah.
Mejair. I'm like
I
Major.
asked too
Okay,
because
maybe it's like a
I
French store.
I
What?
live I live by one, and then I was like, "What is that store called?" Like I asked the manager, I was like, "It's like Major," and then they're like Meyer, and I was like, "Oh yeah."
Oh, not the attitude. You mean Meyer? Oh my
No,
God.
they thought it
What?
was funny.
Girl, that's straight up major. I don't know what people tell me. I've literally been
Meyer.
pronouncing it like
It's
oh my God.
basically like it's like mujer, but like
instead of the U, it's like the EI.
I don't think
Yeah.
I'll ever get it right.
Meyer.
Meyer. Like, where does that?
Like
It's
Michael
still-
Myers.
Like Michael Myers.
Man, the
Yeah,
English
yeah.
language, man. I'm just like, where do you get Meyer from Meijir? I'm like, Major? Like, okay. Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay. Now I know
Yeah.
why people
Now
look
you
at me
know.
funny.
Now you know.
Well, no one corrected me. Literally, I keep saying this, and then people are like, "Oh yeah, it's like across the street." I was like, "Okay, thank you." Like, all right. Well, anyways, it's like basically like a super Walmart, but it's pretty
Yeah.
good. It's pretty
Yeah.
good, you know. And then you got Target and stuff, so it's like not bad in the sense, you know, like everything's around me. Like I have Dunkin'. That's I guess new because I didn't have a Dunkin' close by me. You know, your typical crumble cookie stuff. Yeah, I sound like a fat ass. My bad. But anyways, I know those are close to me.
The
But
important
no,
thing.
yeah, the importance,
Priorities.
how Carol G said, priorities. I love the way she said it. I was like, yes, girl, priorities. But what's it called? Not but yeah, big culture shock in the sense of like not a lot of like Latin like
Yeah.
businesses or like markets slash restaurants near me. So definitely homesickness in that sense. And like I felt really like I'm telling you, like when I met the enchiladas for the first time like a week ago or two, it kind of I was like gonna cry too. I was like, oh man, like this feels really nice. Like they didn't obviously turn out as bomb, but like they were good. And I was like, oh, this feels like home. Like it's so nice and
Yeah.
stuff. So big culture shock. Yeah, I think doing research in the sense of what's close to you because I'm barely finding out like markets by like my fellow coworkers like yeah like there's a you know like a restaurant here and there but again it's not either not close to me or sometimes they're not the best. I'm like you know like I miss the authentic like you know like Latino not chain restaurant like so yeah
Yeah.
it's culture shock for sure.
Yeah.
We have, let's see, 4 more questions.
Okay.
So, what's the first thing you do when you get into work?
Check my emails and messages.
Bro.
And that can be
too.
overwhelming, bro. By the time I finish my
Yeah.
emails, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so drained already. No, but yeah, I do that because I feel like because people are working from different time zones sometimes, like they'll send you messages and you don't see them in your work, you know, the day prior. And so I do that. And I think it just helps you mentally prepare versus jumping into like a huge project. Because I feel like sometimes I like to take baby steps before getting into like big things. So it's like, yeah, check my emails, my messages. You know, also, sorry, no, before that, I make myself coffee to start my day. I'm like, I start my day, my work day with making coffee, and that helps me be like, okay, like I'm gonna start. Like, you know, slow mornings help a lot. Um, so yeah, that's how I start my day. Coffee and emails.
Nice.
We love to see
Love that.
it.
How did the opportunity to work in GM come to be, and did you know someone there?
Yeah, so man, I feel like I talked a lot in the beginning. I'm sorry, I like probably gave the answers to all of these
It's
questions.
all good.
I talk a lot. Feel free to be like, all right, bro, like cut it, you know, like a little cut
You
it.
already said that, Emilia.
Yikes. Yeah, actually. Anyways, yeah, again, like I went out of my way. I didn't know anyone in GM. I did meet someone. I did talk to a recruiter in the ship conference. Is that what it's called? Like a ship fair slash career fair? So I did talk to someone there, and that's when I got to know more about the company. So I think definitely, you know, putting yourself out there to learn more about the company you're interested in and be like, yeah, you know, this feels good or not. I feel like the people that work there will tell you a lot, you know, especially how they act or talk about the you know, the place you want to work at. So that helped a lot in the sense of like understanding, you know, what I want to do or if GM is what I wanted. And so yeah, like after that I was like, yeah, like I want to apply again, applied 5, 6 times, and it wasn't until the last one that I was like, you know, gave me a go, and they were like, yeah, like we'll give you an interview. So I was definitely like disheartened after like the second no, and I was like, oh, like you know, maybe I'm not gonna make it and stuff, and maybe I should you know look at other companies and or my other options. So I was really considering. I was like, oh my God, like, am I gonna have to do masters? You know, like you know, because I was like, what do I do after college? But no, yeah, like I think be persistent and apply to different positions that you might be interested within a company. A lot of them are like cross-functional, so just because it says a certain title doesn't mean you can't work with this team and stuff. So I would say definitely do it that way. And do it again the summer before you graduate. It helps a lot. Don't it doesn't mean it's like the end of it all. Like you don't get to do it in the summer. Sorry if you hear my like the cat hissing. My dog and cat are like fighting now. They've been trying to get along. Oh my God. But anyways, That distracted me. Yes, like take the time. Again, not the end of it all if you don't do it the summer or if you don't get it in the year. Like just be persistent, especially if there's a certain company that you are interested in. Like keep just like, reaching out to either individuals there. And if you don't know anyone, which was my case again, first gen, sometimes it's hard. Use anyone in your social clubs. Google, go to like events like the ship conference or like anything that's specific maybe to you, like the NSB or anything. That helps a lot. And I think just it's gonna take a lot of effort sometimes to get to where you need to,
Yeah.
and that's okay. Just don't doubt your capabilities or like what's gonna happen for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually applied after I graduated.
And that's
I would
okay.
agree
That's
with Emilia.
perfectly
Like
fine.
it was like this whole process, but like also like going back to like what you said, like it's not the end of the world.
Hmm.
Is it helpful to do it before? 100%. Like,
Yes.
so you can have something after. But like if you're like graduated, like don't panic.
Yes, for sure. Don't be,
I
and then
did.
also, no, it's okay. Like, I think just having like a game plan helps. Like, if you
Yeah,
want to take a break, do it
that
without feeling
too.
bad. Don't feel guilty for wanting to take a break. Like, do it as long as you have in your mindset, okay, after I'm gonna like work, look at jobs and stuff, and that's okay. Like, it's not too late.
Yeah.
I think definitely do your research though in the company you're interested, because sometimes it'll be like, oh, like they don't hire until next year, and that happens. So
Mm-hmm.
that's okay. Again, not the end of it all. Um, but if you do plan to, maybe you don't want to take a break, because I know, like, again, financially it's hard to want to take a break or like travel and stuff. I was like, I can't do that, unfortunately. So
Yeah.
after graduation, cool, like a job. And so,
Yeah.
um, um, where was I gonna go with this? I like blanked out. Oh my
It's
God.
okay.
You like that?
Yeah, every situation
Yeah.
is different. So,
Yeah, every
just
situation is
keep
different.
going and just keep swimming, guys.
Yeah, you
That's
got it.
actually
What did it feel like being first generation as the oldest sister and cousin? This might have been someone you know.
oh yeah, related, maybe possible sibling. Shout out to Fernanda. But it's a lot. I feel like, and I've talked to people about this. I don't think a lot is said, and or a lot of people don't talk about what it actually feels like to be first gen. It's kind of like I think it's taken as it is. It's like, oh, like we know you struggle a lot, cool, like still make it happen. It's like, no, it's a lot emotionally.
Yeah.
Um, you have a lot of baggage. Again, like I was the oldest cousin and sibling, like I kind of felt like I couldn't really fail. And I had to do something huge to kind of set the stage. And so yeah, like it was a lot on my mental health, and I had anxiety in college and stuff, so it definitely took a toll on me. And until now I think I'm learning to be more like gentle with myself and being
Yeah.
like, okay, it's okay if I'm struggling, because I didn't have anyone to teach me how to do this.
Yeah.
Like I don't have the same story as someone else. Like I talk to other people like, yeah, like my dad's like an engineer and GM, or like, oh yeah, like my mom's like an electrical engineer here, and it's like, well, that's good. I mean, great for you, but then it's also like allowing me not to compare myself to that person and understanding, okay, that makes sense why I might be struggling more, you know? And I'm
Mhm.
okay with being mid at like things, if that means like if that's
Yeah.
kind of like, well, I'm not okay. Obviously, like I'm gonna push, but it's okay if there's only so much I can get to. But if that means, because I do want kids eventually, but that doesn't mean you gotta have kids. Like, no, I get it, bro. 100% this economy and everything mushing. But I'm okay with being mid if it means like my kid will be able to say like, oh, my mom's an engineer, or like that's why I get this faster, or like like it's kind of like, and I'm gonna humble their ass too, just because I'm not gonna just because just because I didn't want it rough like that, like I didn't, I'm not gonna make it too easy on them too. Like it's okay, it's beneficial also to understand the struggle. But it's like it's allowed me to be easier on myself and not to want to be at the same rate as someone else, and so. Yeah, it's kind of like it's okay if I feel a lot, and that's what's gonna happen too. And I think I'm like starting to get a little overwhelmed at work, where it's like, okay, it's okay if I don't do the best I can. Like I have a supportive team, and they've been good with feedback. Hey, like maybe try this, or like sometimes I say ideas, and it's like maybe I said too much, or even when I type in like an I'm like I don't say it maybe in the best way, and someone's like, hey, try to say it this way, and that helps me a lot. Again,
Yeah.
I didn't really have someone to tell me how to like be concise with messages, or like not have to be so like emotional, and I like add like little smiley faces and like like things, and everyone's like straight up, like straight to the point. That's allowed me to be like, hey, just be concise, don't flower your messages and stuff. So
Yeah.
It's a learning process, literally. I feel like, first gen is just literally learning. That's all you have to do, and that's probably most of the things you're gonna do is learn, and it's like you might not get to like the point that you want to, but just keep learning if that means, helping other generations. So
Yeah. I
yeah.
think also with like knowing like how to celebrate your wins, because I know
Yes.
like, we're always, maybe it's just like our background, but also like first gen, you're always like, okay, you have to do this, this, this. Like you're gonna go to school,
Right.
you're gonna graduate, you're gonna go to college, you're gonna graduate, and then you're gonna get a
Yeah.
job. And then when you do it, it's like, oh, it's something I had to do. So then you don't
Yeah.
really get to like, oh yeah, it's an accomplishment, but it really is. So
Yeah, yeah. I get that completely. And it's like, I don't know, I feel like maybe I'm at the point I am because I felt like I needed it, and that's what I'm also learning. You know, do I really want to do engineering for the rest of my life? And it's like it's okay if I don't. Like I feel like there's no pressure for me to do it anymore. And before it's like I chose engineering, yes, because I liked it, obviously, and I was interested
yeah,
in like I saw opportunity, but it's also like I chose it because of financial reasons as well. Like I wanted to be an art major in high school. Like like a complete 360. Like I was like, okay, I but yeah, it's like you do what you have to, and I think that's very respectful. Realize what like I think like you mentioned, right? Like celebrate your wins and then give yourself like, pat on the back for like everything you had to do. Like you
yeah,
had to do what you had to. I'm not gonna question it. I'm not gonna judge you. But you did what you had to get to where you need to, what you felt like you needed to do for
yeah,
yourself or your family. So
yeah,
and I feel like a lot of people like talk about how hard it is. So
Yeah, it
shout out
is
to all my first
difficult.
gens. Yeah, it is. Whether you're not first gen, it can be difficult that, but first gen has a lot of pressure, and I think you need to understand what your reality is being first gen, and then just being easy on yourself, and you're
Yeah,
doing
and I
great
feel
no
like
matter what.
when people try to like undermine, they're like, "Oh yeah, we get it." Like, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like you're
I was
first
like, oh
gen,
my
la la.
god,
And I'm like, okay, like I didn't have money for groceries in college. Like I had a whole like EBT card, and then they're like, "Oh, free groceries," and I was like, "No, like I couldn't afford
no,
it. Like if it wasn't for that, like you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
it just
A lot
doesn't
of things
make
are
sense."
normalized. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like
Yeah,
like a lot of things are normalized does not mean that it's you can't talk about them or use that as an accomplishment. And thankfully, like my manager, I've talked to him like at like picnics and stuff, and he's like, "Well, what is your story?" He just want to know. I was like, and I told him things like growing up as first gen. I was like, yeah, like I had to like translate documents. And I feel like this is so cheesy, but a lot of people can relate. But it's the truth. Like I had to translate like technical documents at a young age for like my grandparents because like my grandpa didn't have the best medical record. So, I was out here like before they were like, oh, you have to be 18 years old or and I was out here trying to translate like kidney in Spanish and I would get things wrong. I had to Google stuff. And my grandpa's like, oh, I thought you knew. And I was like, no, I don't know how to say kidney, bro. Like what the heck? Like, and then
yeah,
but as I was saying this, even as a joke, my manager was like, "Oh, like that's crazy," and then it dawned on me, like, "Oh, that's not normal to them. Like that's, it's like
yeah,
I'm out here like,
yeah,
documents that I probably don't know half of what it's saying. And it's like they're legal documents, and it's like, oh, like I didn't realize that that was like an actual like big thing. Don't, yeah, we normalize it, but doesn't mean like kids have to grow up really fast, unfortunately. So I feel like I had to grow up a little bit fast. I don't regret it. If it meant helping my sisters or helping my cousins and stuff, but it is hard, and I wish
yeah,
no one had to go through that.
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. Or even like talking about like the city I grew up in or like the
Hmm.
communities or like the schools I went to, and like it's funny because like when you talk to like someone else like didn't have to like like they grew up in a better area community,
Yeah. Like you
and they're like,
normalize,
what? And
yeah.
I'm like, oh, that didn't happen for you.
Yeah, like
I
oh
was like,
y'all
oh,
didn't
was
y'all
that
didn't
not
have
like a
the
shared
lockdown because
experience?
someone like jumped to school or something? What? Like, that's crazy. Like I had a ghetto school, bro. There was like
Me
a
too.
man like
I was
and
like,
yeah, but people normalize it. Like my sister, she was like, "Oh my, the school's so ghetto. Why should I try?" And it's like it like you normalize it, but it really gets into kids like minds of like, oh, they grew up in this ghetto environment. That's all they're gonna amount for. And I grew up with friends that were like, all they were gonna do straight out of high school, if they were actually gonna get their high school diploma, they were gonna go straight to fields because their parents didn't believe in education, or they were like, oh, that's all I'm gonna do. Like Woodland is a very like like factories, warehouses, field working location, and that's all they felt like they amounted for. And I feel so mad, honestly. Okay, first generation is not only like pressure and stress, but also enragement. I think looking back at so many things, I was like, that shouldn't have been normalized, and that's not right, or I feel like I shouldn't have gone through that, or other people. It like makes you look back, like I look back at high school and I realized like so many teachers were like would tell other students, you're not gonna amount to anything anyways. Like I kid you not, we're like straight up like, oh, you can go ahead and like keep sleeping though. Like, and not realizing that that kid was like a farm working kid, bro. Like there's a reason why like he's tired all the time. He's not sleeping because he doesn't care. It's like
Yeah.
he's tired. And I just remember just being so enraged. Like, not I wasn't enraged. I was scared in the beginning because I was like, oh, you're right. Like that kid shouldn't be sleeping and stuff. But now looking back, I'm like, I'm angry. Like, that it's like
You
don't
don't realize
normalize
it.
it. You don't,
Yeah.
you need to understand, especially in your educational system, like the big impact you can have. You need to
Yeah.
understand your audience and where they're coming from. You can't just standardize things and be like, oh, they're just being tired, they're just being lazy, or like, oh, this kid like looks ghetto or comes from like a ghetto location. They're not gonna go to anything. So let me just tell him. It's like, no, don't say that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
enragement as a first gen is real.
Yeah. Yeah. All relatable.
Yeah.
We have one last question.
Mhm.
Same as the others. Share whatever you want. Any advice on moving out to a different state?
I would say don't be scared to do it. Just because I've mentioned that it's not the easiest, I still stand by the whole like it's a new opportunity. If you have the privilege of having, like a good opportunity with a company or stuff, or you feel like it's gonna help you grow, it will help you grow a lot, but it's might be very uncomfortable at the beginning. So definitely set yourself up again, like save money a little bit, like whatever it is, right? Spending time with loved ones and stuff, and or call them, or like again, you have the privilege, thankfully too, and my mom stills this in this, where it's like we have the privilege of, or hopefully you do, right? I won't, I'm not gonna say it to everyone because it might not be the case, but thankfully I have the privilege of being like I'm only a flight away. Versus my mom when she was here, when she had moved countries, technically legally she could not fly back to her like family and see them.
Yeah.
So it's like my mom always said that she's like, yeah, it's sad to let you go, but I'm always gonna catch a flight, bro. Let me know and I'll catch one on that. So that's been like helpful in that transition and understanding like, okay, like I need this, like you know I needed to move the states of meant having this really good opportunity, have my foot in the door, and eventually I'm going to move back. So it's like also like, yeah, like I also have the privilege of being able to move back when I want. And so that's my goal, staying here a couple years. And well, that's my goal. You never know. I feel like now
Yeah.
as an adult you realize you never really know. You might end up somewhere else, so I don't know. um but yeah, so it gets better and it's okay to venture out. It might not be easy at all. It might take months, or like everyone takes things differently. It took me a month and a half, and even then it's like still like, yeah, like I miss my family. It's not gonna go away. It just
Yeah.
gets easier to deal with. But yeah,
Yeah.
I would still take the leap, do it. Especially if you come from a small town like I did, and I feel like I couldn't there I had to leave for a better opportunity. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
I
kind of the
agree.
advice I have for that.
Yeah, I feel like you can also see um like the world, not the world. Sorry, too big.
I was
Like a
like,
different
okay.
area. Like, you can see things from like a different set of eyes, really. Like,
Hmm.
I think if you stay in the same spot, like that's all you're gonna see, like those perspectives.
Right.
But then, yeah, I think branching out also, like knowing how to be independent, and like I also like recently just started going like out by myself. Like
Mhm.
so like I would never do that because I was like anxious, and like you feel like everyone's staring at you, but no one cares about you. Like no one
Yeah,
cares.
nobody. They're probably
You're
tripping on
not the
something
main
else.
character.
No, but like learning how to, I don't know what it is, self-love, like learning how to do
Yeah,
things alone is very important because that's what I'm doing with
yeah,
hobbies. Even though if I'm like with my partner, it's still kind of like you still got to be independent. Like you still got to figure out
yeah,
what you want to do.
yeah,
So I felt that.
yeah. But I agree. Was that the last question?
That was sorry. That was the last question. Don't
Yeah,
know
man,
why
I
I
need
sounded
some
like
water
that.
up in here.
Uh,
Someone get him some
I was
water,
like
please.
sad that we're gonna end. But yeah, that was the last question. Yeah.
Yeah.
This
That was
was
the last
deep.
question.
Yeah, this was a lot of emotional baggage, man. We
Uh,
can have a whole topic, bro, honestly, in first gen, but yeah,
yeah,
it's just know everyone's heard. Y'all Christians are heard and understood, and we understand. Like fellows. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Emilia, for joining.
Yeah, thank y'all for having
And
me here.
yes, of course. And for anyone who listens to this episode, I'm sure Emilia, I don't want to speak for you, but if you disagree, let me know. We will put it in
No,
the
yeah, you're good.
podcast, but like, but if you, have more questions or want to reach out, feel free to contact Emilia or Victoria or I.
Of
We're more
course.
than willing to answer any questions or just chat. We do a lot of debriefing on these recently, since we started having more features. But yeah, thank you, Emilia.
It was a
Yeah,
pleasure.
this is great. This is great.
Okay.
So 1, 2, 3.
Bye.
Bye.